Appreciate you checking out this video. Before I continue, I want you to go to theultimatejetguide.com, where I've put together a full guide for jet buyers like yourself. I'd love to pull back the curtain a little bit on maybe this idea of like buyer beware, or just this idea of transparency that, you know, based on your experience, what are maybe one or two situations that you would recommend buyers be aware of that maybe they haven't thought about? Because like you said, aviation is kind of the wild, wild west, you know, at some times. And, you know, making sure that you have a team that you know, like, and trust, you know, is really important. But what are maybe some things people should look out for, or something that they haven't? I mean, even we can talk about this idea of a back-to-back, because that might be something that is a foreign concept to most people watching.
Yeah. So, and a back-to-back is a great example because I find that it opens up a lot of opportunity to think for things to go badly. Basically, a back-to-back means that the intermediary, or in this example, the broker, takes a position of ownership of the aircraft before the buyer owns it. Now, so he has stepped in between the buyer and the seller. He negotiates a purchase price from the seller, negotiates a sales price with the buyer, scrapes the money off the middle, and allows the airplane to close through escrow. So the proper way to do it, the legal way to do it, the way that won't get you in a lot of hot water, you know, in civil court, is to tell the buyer that you are taking a position and you're doing a back-to-back. Now, people are going to say, well, he's never going to agree to it. Well, I mean, I don't think that that's true at all. I see back-to-backs that go through that way every day. And the reason is that the broker is bringing something to the table, whether it's trust, organizational skills, know-how, knowledge, expertise, all of the above. And he's entitled to forego his commission in lieu of whatever he can make negotiating the difference. Now, the double dip is where you find that there's no tolerance, even if there's transparency. And what I mean by that is that the broker's already negotiated to get a commission from the buyer, and then that's not good enough. So now he's going to go and do a back-to-back, buy the airplane and resell it and collect the commission. I don't think we have to be older than 6 years old to know that that's not right. Whether it's illegal or not, that's not my position. It's unethical. And I think it sours people's taste in their mouth, and it removes people as potential clients from our industry. That's what shrinks our industry, that kind of behavior. But if it's done right, I think there's nothing wrong with it. And I actually think it plays a vital role in, you know, in trade, because there's always times when a seller needs to sell and a buyer's not ready to buy, and there's an opportunity. And I think, you know, why not? Now, here's the difference. If you're the buyer, I wouldn't be able to use your money if I'm the broker, right? I should have my own money to put down as the deposit. If I'm willing
That's
to
true.
buy that
In a back-to-back,
right?
sometimes there's,
in a back-to-back, what happens most of the time? The broker, whoever's doing the back-to-back, they use the buyer's money as a deposit.
They use the buyer,
and they ask them to reassign it, right? Now, that's a big, big, big no-no. I mean, that's when you basically should just say, you know, whatever goes bad, I just got to own up to it. If you use your own money and your own money's at risk, again, I mean, I think that that's like the best way to go about it. And the people I know that do back-to-backs regularly, that's exactly what they do. They put their own money up in deposit. They go and negotiate. Good example. Bank has an airplane coming off a lease. The bank doesn't want to go through remarketing. They make a couple phone calls to people that they know that like to buy that kind of equipment. Guy puts down a deposit. He goes through the motions like he's going to buy it. He finds somebody else to step in his shoes before he has to write a check. What's wrong with that?
right.
Stuff is sold like that every day. But what's the difference? The buyer is doing business with whoever rightfully owns it. KYC, know your customer, the ability for people to do, you know, to trace where all this money's coming from, you know, whether it's through money laundering or crypto or just unscrupulous bad behavior. Like, you know, that's what we have to audit. That's why there's people looking over these transactions now. Yeah, transparency is a tough pill to swallow. I mean, yeah, it's usually going to cost you money, but it should gain you a whole lot of respect, a lot of longevity, right? And more repeat business.
That was fantastic explanation. And I think that's something that is not talked about because it's very tempting, you know, from the broker's world. You know, it's very tempting.
Carrot that's dangled every day. You already have both parties in your hand.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and if you get the great idea that you want to squeeze blood from a turnip, sure, I mean, I've seen everything. So there's a couple red flags to be aware of. Large aircraft with international participants. That's when you know that the field is basically going to be set for something like this. You just got to protect yourself. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine. You go
Sure.
buy a $50 million airplane, you think it's hard to hide five? I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
nobody, and so
And it comes down to transparency. As long as everybody knows, because there should be an expectation that everyone involved in this transaction is getting compensated, is getting paid in some way, shape, or form.
absolutely.